Okay, good evening and welcome. This is the December 18th, 2023 regularly scheduled meeting of the school committee. Call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. The meeting is being both audio and videotaped this evening, and I would ask that everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think Sarah must be the loud one. You're all quiet. Okay, roll call. Samantha, if you'd start us, please.
Samantha Velasquez, Secretary.
Pamela Blair, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Angela Rochella.
Gordon Smith, Superintendent of Schools.
Gregory Thompson.
Kate Leiden. Amy DeLenta. Emily Baker, Student Rep.
Okay, thank you all. We have some minutes for approval, please.
I move to approve the November 20th, 2023 regular session meeting minutes.
Motion made by Antonella. Second by Kate. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That carries 4-0. Thank you, Samantha, for those. Committee and subcommittee communications. Antonella, would you like to start?
I don't have anything.
Great. Kate,
Don't have anything.
I was able to attend the Diversity Equity Steering Committee meeting that was held last week here at the high school. I think we set a nice stage for the upcoming steps. Unfortunately, we were a little bit lower in attendance. Some students had some different things that were competing with that, but our next meeting will be held in a couple of weeks and we are expecting full attendance at that meeting.
excellent.
Yes.
Great.
And I also just wanted to say two positive things that I was able to attend this past week more as a parent, not as a school committee member, but I was able to attend my very first track meet, which our wonderful student rep killed it at. I've never been to one before, and the coaches are just doing such an incredible job. And it's just such a nice program and a successful program for our town. And then I also wanted to call out specifically somebody at Maple Shade, Mr. Axelrad, who runs a walking club every morning before school and has like a huge following. He takes the kids for like 20 minutes. He walks them around Birchland. He started this maybe a year or two ago, but he also some of the students petitioned to have it become a year-round thing. He was just doing it for the warmer months, and the students wrote a letter to him and asked him to do it all year. And I was able to, my daughter participates, and I never thought to bring it up in this setting, but it's just such a wonderful thing. He has 25 students that just follow him around, and it's very quick, but I think it really sets the stage for a nice day. And I think he really volunteers to do that. So I just wanted to call that out because it was just something really positive that I saw this week.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you. Are the track meets in Northampton?
Most of them are.
Yeah.
Then we have some out in Boston.
Oh, yeah? Oh, very cool. Oh, great. Thank you, Amy. Emily, any announcements?
We do have a few things going on this week. The guidance department is starting to meet with sophomores and juniors in order to kind of introduce your options for post-secondary schooling. So 4-year, 2-year colleging, workforce, military, trade schools. And they're also introducing the students to career clusters, which is definitely something that I utilize in order to kind of figure out what I wanted to do with my career and where my characteristics aligned. So I think it's really good that they're getting that started now. NHS is introducing tutoring for not only the high school, but also Birchland Park, which is really exciting. It's going to run Thursday so that it can correlate with the late bus that we started, which has also been really helpful around the school. It's a way for students, especially in middle school. I think they might be more comfortable and find more confidence working with high schoolers. And a lot of our NHS members are very into doing something like that. So we are starting that into the new year. So sometime after January 1st. We did have Cafe East go on the past 2 weeks. I know some of you might have seen that if you were in the building at the time. There was stuff like hot chocolate, blondies, Oreo truffles, and I actually got to participate in it this year, which is kind of really cool to see the background. But Miss Card does a really, really good job with that, and the whole school enjoys it.
Oreo truffles are
I did make a few of those. Yeah.
What is it, a cafe for the school?
Yeah, so the culinary classes,
Yep.
each one, they all pick like 3 items to make. It's a drink and then 2 baking items. And then the classes get together and they make it and then they go out and they sell it themselves, like in the cafeteria. It's
Oh,
really nice. And then one last thing, like sports related, our hockey team actually got a win against Long Meadow last weekend. It was a very good game. A lot of students there. I've been to a few like basketball and hockey games this year so far, and I would say like the student like energy and school spirit has been much better this year. So it's really nice.
Great.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. Just one other thing, we are continuing to meet as a pool committee and as a school building committee, and we met this week prior, starting to talk about specifics, lane line colors, and I
That's
picked
right.
that one up. And gutters and such like that for the pool. And then we're talking about the restrooms at the high school. There's some things we have to work out in regards to that and some modifications in terms of the layout, but things continue to move along. So just want to feel
when do
everything on
they
it.
actually like start
The,
in a year?
I'm sorry.
no, I was going to say the construction manager at risk hopefully will be hired by the end of January.
Yep.
And then once we have that person or that corporation, that group involved, we hope to pick up the pace and then possibly start construction summer of 24.
Next year.
Yeah,
Wow.
the end of this school year.
Exciting.
Yeah.
It'll take 2 years to build it, so got to start in order to finish by the do so much from that. So I have to stuff. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for that opportunity for visitors. We will move along, and we have a gift donation from the Vote ELHS. Em, do you have this one?
I do. So Carolyn Farrows, who we would like to thank very much, and her team, they did a great job on supporting the high school and helping get that vote passed. So they had collected some donations when they were, printing things, et cetera. They had $220 remaining in the account and would like to give that back as a gift to the high school. And Mr. Smith did reach out to.
We reached out to the campaign, Office of Campaign and Political Finance, and they said that this is something that certainly can happen. Residual money can be donated wherever the group would like to donate it.
Thank you.
Where is that going to go? Into the high school?
To the high school gift account. Yep.
Okay. I would take a motion to that effect, including the destination, please.
I move to accept the donation of $220 ELHS to the East Long Meadow High School
Gift account.
gift account.
Thank you. Motion made by Antonella. Second by Amy. Any other discussion? Just want to again reiterate, as Pam did, the fantastic effort that the whole group put in. ELHS, vote yes, ELHS. A lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of effort. With that said, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That carries 4-0.
Great. We'll get that deposited. Thank you.
Hey. And we begin our budget development for fiscal year 2025.
Okay, so I'll jump right in. Do you want me to?
So we're just going to frame it. Just Blair's going to walk us through this, but as all of you know, we're at the preliminary stages for our timeline, and we do have a meeting that we'll schedule shortly. There was outreach today. I think you were talking about it just before our meeting began. So the school committee will meet with the town council, and the timeline for departments is being outlined. Some of it was outlined last week, and Mrs. Blair and I will probably meet with Mr. Christensen and Ms. Collins to figure out what's the right timeline in terms of getting spreadsheets and so forth into the town so that we can keep moving along our timeline for budget development, because ours takes a little bit longer than the other departments. It's one of the bigger budgets.
It's a little bigger.
Biggest budget in town. So we hope to meet with them this week. And November 30th at our leadership team meeting, we discussed the process with all the principals and assistant principals and department chairs and so forth. So they are in process as we speak.
So as Mr. Smith said, we are in the beginning stages of the FY25 budget development, and it has started by us having the conversations with the leadership team, and now they go back to their schools and they meet with their other departments. And then Gordon and I will be meeting with each individual principal to talk about what their school needs are. We always feel and send that message that it's very important that we tell their story to all of you, right? So if we need positions, what is it each school needs so that we can make sure that you all know that. So that's where we're at with that. But we wanted to talk about the different funding sources because I do think it's important to remind everyone we have the operating budget. We also have other funding sources and they intertwined with the operating budget because without all of these, we would be asking for substantially more money. So the funding sources, the first one, of course, is the Chapter 70, and that is the state aid, which is determined through the foundation budget formula with many variables such as enrollment, demographics, inflation, the town's ability to pay. All of those matter within the scenes. A district's Chapter 70 will never go down as there is a rule that it will increase at minimum $30 per pupil. Legislature actually increased the minimum aid to $60 per pupil in recent years. So I just thought that also was important for you to know. I gave the top chart here because I wanted you to see how our Chapter 70 has really changed. And if you look down at FY14, the increase was only $67,000 from the prior year, which is extremely minimal. And if you look at last year, or this current year, sorry, I'm always like, where was I? Where am I? Where am I going? We're in FY24. That was an increase of $2 million, a little over $2 million, which is huge. So I just thought that was very important. The reason that we see that revenue going up is there is the Student Opportunity Act, which sets a goal to increase the rates for each category over 6 years, which began in FY22 and it goes through FY27. And those are categories such as economically disadvantaged, special education, ELL. I think those are the main categories.
Yep.
So again, I wanted to bring those numbers down to the bottom here in that chart so that you could see all the different factors. You'll see our enrollment plays a role in this. Our enrollment is, if I look back at FY16, we're approximately 100 students less. And this is happening across the nation. It's not just here. Enrollment has gone down in public schools. So you'll see the school budget, and I wanted to show you the increase and the percentage. Last year, for this year, we got a 3.9% increase. The Chapter 70 had been increased by that $2 million. And you'll see that was a 15.4% increase, which is huge. So what did that do for the required local contribution? I thought it was important to show that. Each district is mandated to give a minimum amount to the school district, and East Long Meadow was $18,843,000. If you look down in FY16 at the bottom of that chart, you'll see that it was $16,206,000. It's gone up significantly. You'll also then in the next column, so I did the required and then what the actual was, because the town is always very generous and they do support the schools and we do get more than the minimum. So I thought what was really informational is to see that back in 2016, there was really like a $2 million difference there, that they gave $2 million more than they actually had to at the bare minimum. And if you look now for this current year, it really is on the increase was only $737,000, the minimum. Do you see where I'm going with that? So it's changed over time. So although
there was a decrease. $707,000.
Yes, that's why I show that negative there, because they had to give us less money.
Because of the Chapter 70.
Or they gave us
such a significant increase, they were able to meet their net school spending and decrease the amount from the previous year that they had
to give
to the schools. And it's something that, if you remember, we did discuss here about what to do because we had learned late. The Healy administration came out with their budget in the first year a little bit later than the usual late January governor's budget release. And so we learned early March that we were going to get that significant of an increase. And Chapter 70 flows through the town. It goes to the town. And then because they've already committed to a certain amount during the budget process, anything that's not utilized for schools goes into their free cash.
So although we do not have the projected level services budget completed yet, we do know that the following are currently areas of focus for budget development. And that's, we do have Unit A negotiations. I just want to remind folks, approximately 62% of our $34 million budget is Unit A. So we're talking over, $21 million is Unit A. So that adds up very quickly is all I just want to throw out there. I also want to let you know that as of right now, when I looked at my file, we do have 8 Unit A retirees at the end of the year. We have 1 para and 1 custodian. Of course, that number probably will change because that's what happens. But as of right now, that's where we're at. And during the budget process, just to remind everyone here and anyone out there listening, these retirees, I have many spreadsheets, and as you can imagine. And so I start with each bargaining unit and gradually, start increasing and add longevity when necessary, add projected increases. Retirees, Gordon and I sit together as a committee here and come up with an amount, might be like a master's 8 level that we plug in for each retiree so that we have a number there. So my point is, if somebody's retiring at $85,000, we're putting in the budget $65,000. It might be that figure.
Mhm.
So we're already taking into consideration that savings. So I just think it's important. The town sometimes asks that question. I want to make it very clear. We do take that into consideration. And the same thing with any of the bargaining units, whether it's a para, custodian, someone's been here, 20, 30 years, they're going to retire high, and we can typically, depends, typically try to hire a little lower. So we do have that savings. The other thing, we have the East Long Meadow High School NEASC accreditation next year.
It's actually a 2-part process. If you've been through, they just changed recently the high school accreditation. It had been a 10-year cycle. Now they're doing a 2-day visit prior to their full-fledged visit for evaluation. And so I think next year is a two-day visit.
Yeah, two-day.
For which we will start to prepare starting in January in terms of the updates and the progress reports and so forth that we have to put together for them. And then with this, this is not the full team, but you're probably putting up anywhere from 4 to 6 people for those 2 days and paying for meals and mileage and so forth. And so there's a budgeting sheet that the NAAC provides school districts to put that together.
So I will be reaching out to local, hotels, et cetera, to try to get something booked up ahead of time and get the governmental rate. And but as Mr. Smith said, there's a pretty hefty budget that goes along with this accreditation. So, but it's very important too.
It's like MGM. Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Roll the dice.
The other one is special education costs. That's been a hot topic over the last, actually even more so since the pandemic, right? We are social emotional. It's everywhere. It's at all levels throughout the district, throughout the country. So that's something we're going to pay close attention to again. The preschool, we're going to continue to ensure appropriate staffing. That also has changed drastically since the pandemic, as you've heard Mrs. Lodi come in here to talk about that. The things that the kids are dealing with now, or the way that they're dealing with, are very different from before the pandemic. So we need to stay on top of that to help these little tykes, as she always calls them. And so we'll continue to do that. The last thing is, of course, it rolls right into a continued focus on the impact of the pandemic on student learning. Just a reminder, our current budget is $34,618,457 and for 457. And for every 1% increase, of course, that's a $346,000 approximate cost to the district. Any questions on that portion, chapter 70? Okay, the next page, page 2, is your grants and revolving account. I just took a picture from the first quarter of all the grants and revolving, because again, I just think it's very important to remind you of the funds that we do get. So I anticipate that we will get these very similar revenues next year, all except that ESSER 3 grant, which is right at the top. That's the big one, $2 million. That will be going away. Reminder, September 30th, 2024, the funds are gone. They need to be expended or they will have to be returned to the state. to the federal government, actually. That's all. Yep. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that I put it down the bottom here, the true programming costs approach really $38 million if we were to not have these grants and need to ask for more funds from the town. Any questions on that?
And I know Mrs. Blair had mentioned this when we went through the first quarter review, but grants like the IDEA and then down in revolving accounts, which I think they're going to next, circuit breaker, those are big funding elements for out of district tuition and special education costs. They're basically what offset the fact that we could have been looking at a 14% increase to special education out of district tuition this school year. I think ultimately it's probably around 9%.
I think 9% is
so we were a little
accurate.
bit lower, and the state did come through with a little bit higher percentage, especially in their supplemental budget, in terms of how they're helping out districts with that. So we're hoping that should be fine, but that's where the management that Mrs. Blair and Mr. Fredette do is pretty incredible. Keep that managed well, make sure that we're never in a situation where all of a sudden we're looking at escalating out of district tuition costs, more students possibly in the pipeline that, you know, have been identified that may need to go out. And we're looking at operational budget deficits in addition to, not having an IDA grant or circuit breaker at a healthy level.
So the circuit breaker is quarterly distribution,
The
Reimbursement?
circuit breaker comes in quarterly, yes.
and we haven't received any yet.
We have. So you know what I should probably have you do is go to page 4 instead of page 3. Should have put circuit breaker right after that. So what I did here on page 4 is put the circuit breaker reimbursement history in here. And, things I want you to know is that it is paid directly to the school district and reimburses districts for up to 75% of the special ed costs that exceed a per pupil threshold, which is actually 4 times the state average per pupil amount, which equates to $51,721 this year. So what that's saying is that, and then if you look up at the top of the chart and you'll see eligible students there, that second column up at the top, those are the number of students that went over that threshold. And once they go over that threshold, those expenditures, Mr. Fredette does a large circuit breaker report, and all those expenditures go into a huge spreadsheet. What they also added, I think it was last year, was transportation. That was never included before. It was kind of a game changer because transportation is huge. We have to have it, to out of district, in district, but now they're letting us include it. And you'll see here, there it is, FY22 up at the top there. You'll see the transportation column. So, $242,000, that's the reimbursement amount that came back to the district. So that's really been very helpful. Reimburses special education costs per student with the tuition and transportation. It was phased in FY22. The revenue is used as as a budget offset in the year after it is received. We did roll over $1,090,354 in the circuit breaker account from FY23 to 24. So that's where I did a little accounting here in the middle of the page just to show you. So the way the rules work is you can roll over 1 full year's, if you're able to, 1 full year's of circuit breaker revenue, but that must be expended in the next year. Does that make sense? So at minimum, we have to expend that $1,090,000. What I am saying is our projected revenue this year is $1.7 million. That figure you see in the middle. So that gives us the 2.8. At this point in time, I'm projecting our expenditures for the year out of circuit breaker to be 1.3 million. That number can change a little, but that's my best guess right now, which would give us 1.5 million to help us with that 1.5. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, why is the 1.7 not in the first spreadsheet though?
What do you mean?
If we receive the revenue this year?
We haven't received.
We haven't received the full amount yet. It comes in
28.
quarterly. Yeah, so it comes in quarterly. That's why I put that 428,134 quarterly.
But that's not reflected in the spreadsheet.
I probably, so my.
And after?
Yes.
Okay.
They say 9:30.
That's all my question really was, because there's no receipts, but
That's why, because it
came after.
in October 2nd or 3rd, and then by the time it get posted to the financial software, we're already into a next quarter, which I'll be doing very soon for you. So in a couple of weeks, hopefully I'll have that and you'll see that revenue there.
What are some examples of things that this money goes to?
Circuit breaker, it's
Yeah.
only special ed expenditures. It's mostly out of district tuitions, transportation, student supplies if I need to. Contracted services are up,
Okay,
significantly up, contracted services. So we have a budget in our operating budget, we have budget lines.
Yeah.
But when those are fully expended, I have to then utilize the circuit breaker funding.
So out of these 38 students, some of them potentially are in district, but have contracted
That's correct.
services that meet the circuit
That's
breaker.
correct. So that's a mixture of in-district and out-of-district students. Yes.
So for different services that we may not have staff members, or we don't have the amount of staff members, speech and language would be one of them.
Okay.
If we need behavioral experts, we might contract with outside groups. They come in for a certain amount of time, given our student population, and that would be contracted services in addition to transportation. And
does it
then-
ever go to like paras or special ed teachers or
breaker.
no? Okay,
No employees,
No.
non-employees,
okay,
out of district stuff.
What I,
Cost to the district that-
IDEA grant you can
That's what-
utilize for some of that. We generally don't,
okay.
but we
I
do
do, yeah.
supply, and
most of that's transportation,
we do our
facilitator stipend.
Okay.
So we do additional stipends to help out to support the student support services
Mhm.
office. But
All right.
the biggest cost is that out of district
Mm-hmm.
tuition.
So we don't have the services in our district, so we have to send them somewhere else.
Or you're maxed out.
Yeah, or-
Is that you
Yes,
have-
maxed out, yes.
Okay,
You know, if we, in some cases, generally when they're going out of district, although this year we've seen more at younger grade levels, we generally are seeing that happen as they reach the higher elementary grades or middle school level, and things are changing. And for whatever reason, we just don't have the staff to handle some of the changes and support the student in the best way possible.
all right.
What I would like to say is that Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed has recognized what is happening. They have definitely supported districts with that, because before it was up to 75% and now it's been 75%. But they've also extraordinary relief up in that top section. You'll see over to the right, additional extraordinary relief funds. Last year, we did receive on May 5th, $343,000 additional dollars. Those revenues could not be rolled over. Those must be expended by June, because those were extraordinary circumstances that happened in that time frame, so that they know that you need those funds. I forget exactly what the formula is. I'm going to say 125. If an expenditure went up more than 125% from the prior year, those types of things can be this extraordinary relief. And I know, and you'll probably hear about it soon. Governor Healy has supported additional extraordinary relief to districts because so much is happening. I forget, like $75 million, a huge amount of money. And a notice just came out just today for a webinar, because they're going to allow the extraordinary relief to happen sooner, so districts can get the money that they need, because it's happening now. But again, there's that 125%. I think that's the percentage. So I don't know what will qualify for, but what they're anticipating and why they gave so much more money is that they do anticipate that there's going to be a lot more districts that need it. And before, let's say they had 20 million. I really don't know the number. I'm just throwing that out there. And that would be, so that's a pot, and how many ever districts apply for is just divvied up, and they do the best they can. So the sheer fact that they've got this 75 million, knowing that there's going to be more districts that need that help. And I think it might roll, and if it's not all used, it will roll into like the following year, which is just really great. So it just shows that they're really supporting districts, and that, it's been eye-opening for them as well. So just wanted to mention that. Any other questions on the circuit breaker? Okay, so we go back to page 3. Sorry about that. This is your school choice revolving account. I found this great little chart on Desi's website, so I thought I should share that with you. We added 2023 to it. So what you will see is that East Long Meadow, back in earlier years, used to have school choice. So you see on the left side here, that's your receiving tuition revenues and your sending tuition revenues. And then for 15 years, from 2006 to 2020, we didn't have school choice receiving here in East Long Meadow. School committee voted, approved it. And the way this works is school choice is paid directly to the school district and is funded $5,000 per pupil plus reimbursement for any special ed costs. The district manages school choice enrollment by grade with the intent to not need to add a teacher to educate these students. I think that's very important for folks to just remember, because we're not bringing students in or requesting students to be added where we can't already handle it. We look for, little lulls in our enrollment and grades and bring it to the school committee, and you all vote on that. So what you can see is after the 15 years, 2020, you voted it. 2021, we had our first 15 students there. So you're going to see the revenue coming in on the left, and well, that's expenditures going out because it comes on the cherry sheet, which is called.
So before the chapter 70 number,
It is.
so that's good.
It is good for
Yes.
us. That is correct.
Otherwise it'd come and then we.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but what I do want to point out and why I thought this chart was very telling is it's just only been a couple of years, but we're finding we have more kids coming in than leaving the district, which is what we want to see. And, when we get this new high school, we're hoping we're going to even see that number change as well. So, we've had 3 complete years. We're in our year 4, 2024. They don't post anything down there because those numbers can change. So I won't get that information until the end of the year. The current balance in the account is $628,000. So it's a very, very healthy account. And we know that. And we have a plan to utilize the school choice revolving account to fund district summer academy programs and the ELHS credit recovery program. Currently, these programs are funded through the ESSER 3 grant, which again, just a reminder, it's gone in September. So we've got the ESSER grant that can help us this coming summer, but then after that, we're on our own. So this is a wonderful place for us to utilize those funds. So right now, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we'll develop a more specific, detailed plan, but the last few summers, because we've had the ESSER funding, we've been able to run summer academy at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. It's been met with an incredible reception by our families, and we think it's having a very positive effect on our students. So we would like to continue that, and this gives us an opportunity to take choice money that's coming in each year, not exhaust it, but continue something that is giving back to our students, and giving them something during that summer hiatus where you do see a lot of learning drop off. And so if we can continue that, that would be incredible. We have started a credit recovery pilot this year with using the ESSER funding. And we've gone away from a lot of the online credit recovery, and we're starting with at least math and ELA, where after late afternoon / nighttime credit recovery classes. If that's successful, that would be another thing which hopefully we can bring into and utilize school choice funding to keep that going.
So is it a teacher then
Yeah.
for credit recovery?
Yeah. Similar to the Agawam model that they use.
I'm not sure what they use. Is it?
They employ a number of teachers and they
Yeah.
run a whole night school.
Mhm.
And we were seeing a lot of our students who were in that risky situation of
Yep.
whether they're going to graduate in 4 years or 5, and some middle of their senior year said, you know what, I'm going to go over Agawam. I'm going to go at night. It works better with what I'm doing. And I may be working. They may have family situations,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. And so we were losing a lot of students
Oh, that's
to the Agawam night school. And we were having challenges with some of their credit recovery with the software program we were using.
Yeah.
We weren't finding the fit that we felt was best. So Mr. Page and his staff started to look at this and said, what if we run a pilot this spring? So now will be the time to run the pilot because you have funding to run it and see, will that take? And if
Yeah.
it does, we can put this into that plan that we're putting together. Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, I just appreciate how you look at enrollment and class size too, because I think that's important too.
Mhm.
And remember, those numbers on the left-hand side, that's total. So last year, I think we only brought in.
Right, that's cumulative.
7 students
Eight.
total, 8 students. Thank
15
you.
to 23, yeah.
So it gets discussed, usually we do it in March over 1 or 2 meetings and we look at what's our enrollment at each grade level? What makes sense? What's going to be good for the district, but also good for families who are coming in. So if we can look at those transition years, we try to, whether it be moving in the 3rd grade where they'd be going to Maple Shade or Mountain View, or looking at the 6th grade, starting their middle school career.
But we got away from that last year. Didn't
We did. It didn't fit.
And we don't usually look at.
We
high
did
school.
look at 6th.
There was.
Don't look at high school, is that what you said?
Not really.
First year we did, but we've stayed away from it, given that they've then done most of their schooling in another district.
Yeah.
And they're walking in to ELPS in the 9th grade.
Got it.
No.
But we'll talk about it.
Okay.
I don't have a say on it now, so you're in.
Your decision every year.
Yep.
No, I mean, the money and the funding for it is great. The programs that we can use is great.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really, class size is so important.
Yeah. And that's
We're
always.
excited about that because as a
That's what
leadership
drives the
team,
decision,
we're
really.
talking and we're thinking, wow, what are we going to do when ESSER goes away with these? Because first year was challenging in getting people, everybody was just tired with the pandemic and so forth. So getting staff that would be willing to work through the summer, that was really challenging, but we ran it anyway.
Mhm.
And we got staff, we got outside people coming in who took the jobs, which was great. And it just got better because the last 2 years it's been ELPS staff, 99%. And so that's been really incredible.
I'll start with school choice. Okay, so now we can go to page 5. Your final funding source, tuition revolving account. So the tuition revolving account revenue is from the preschool peer partner tuition payments. I want to remind you that the half-day fee is $2,500. Currently, we have 19 students there, and the full-day fee is $6,300, and currently we have 8 students there. This account will continue to support the preschool program. What I wanted to show you is that we did roll over $284,000 from last year into this year. The projected revenue is down a bit. It's $98,100. I think we were projecting more like $130. We still have some vacant peer partner slots. So we are going to advertise again for that. Yeah, so it's a little more challenging for folks, right? And for parents. So we're still looking at this and analyzing, and
I'll probably do some advertising in January, both, for slots open this year as well as slots open next year, and hope to continue to fill those because we used to have a wait list even with an entirely half-day program. So hopefully we had that 1 year where we tried to go all full day. And so I think that we put a ceiling then of what we could actually.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, Penny.
We got used to it, yeah.
You go full day. However, you put a ceiling on the slots for students who are eligible for that early care. And unfortunately, we can't do that. You can't put a ceiling on that. You have to have open slots if they are age eligible and they become eligible through evaluation process, then we have to have a slot and start them off.
So those students who are eligible through the evaluation, are they full day even though their peers
they
are
can be-
half?
Not all.
They can be half as
Depends.
well, depend on the IEP.
Depends on the IEP, yeah.
Okay.
Their needs, yeah.
So, but necessarily are some of the kids full day whose peers are half day or not? All the
No,
peers are half day?
try to so we have one full day section. So we're
Okay,
trying
okay.
to say, okay, to the extent we can,
Yeah,
start of the school year, we know we're going to have this many students who have met the eligibility criteria and we have this many peer partners, and that's our full day classroom. However, there are always situations that crop up during the year where you may have just some significant needs that had not been identified, and you may have to add some hours of programming.
and those class sizes are 15?
We try to keep them 15 or below.
Yeah, right.
Right now, we are below 15 in all those sections. But we do have some students in the pipeline, so that will probably begin with us in January and February.
Because we try to have more peers than
Right. You want to have,
Big ratio.
Yeah, there is.
more than. We try. It doesn't always happen.
if you can,
You know, as the
like
year
to be
goes
at-
along.
At least eight,
Yeah.
seven.
Yep.
Seven
Yeah.
eligible, 8 peer
Plus
partners.
But
That gets you more. Yeah.
But the key is we have to keep advertising to try to get more peer partners in.
So you'll probably see that in the near future. We're working on it. We do currently pay for a pre-K teacher out of that fund and 2 paraprofessionals. So that will certainly be something we will continue. And we may even have another discussion that perhaps we want to make it 3 paras so that we have a plan in place. But that'll be discussed during the budget process. So you can see the revenue that's there and
I think we are carrying at least 3 paraprofessionals on ESSER right now.
right.
So there, during the budget process, we have to look at that in terms of are these positions needed and vital to continuing to move the programming forward? Can we bring them into the operational budget? Are there other ways to fund those positions? Because we know the funding source is going away as of September.
We have so that's a perfect segue right into ESSER 3. That's my last item here. We have not added a ton of positions as many districts did. Everyone talks about like that budget cliff and, you know, we definitely have used that ESSER revenue. Again, that was $2 million. $2 million. I want you to know that to date, we have expended $1,072,394. This was last week when I ran the report. Encumbered, which of course just means we put to the side. We got POs in place and things. 385,562. It left an approximate balance 772,491. So what is our plan? So this is a projected plan. The summer academy programs we talked about for next summer, that it will be able to, the ESSER grant will be able to fund that. So it's estimated 150,000. Custodial support, 25,000. Building and grounds and special projects. So that one there, we wanted to talk about Meadowbrook is in dire need of a new playscape. And at first we thought it was only going to be about $150,000 and we were going to go to community preservation, saying that correct, right? But the reality is, after additional research, a playground is going to cost about $400,000 for us. And that is, and I talked to someone from another.
going through it right now.
I talked to someone who.
$500,000.
Easily now. And
We
for
just make it accessible.
half of that, it would be tiny.
Yeah.
We're talking tiny, no
The person I talked to today said,
bounds.
oh, you will definitely spend $300,000 to $400,000. I have one that's $800,000. It's a very large one.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk and she's going to show me some things she's done. But so
And
We
they're
wanted-
using ESSER funding to do a number.
they're
of
using
programs.
a number of playgrounds. So there's
No,
a
it's important.
process.
It's important.
There's a process. I did reach out to our, every district has an ESSER liaison. Ours is Jake Rosardis at DESI. And I reached out to Jake to ask what the process would be, because I want to have those answers for you for tonight. And he said that any project, capital project that's over $30,000 that a district wants to fund with ESSER funds, there's a paperwork that needs to be done. You know, you need to, board needs to sign it. We need to kind of show them like a quote and give a nice write-up on what we're trying to do and why it's important and why the ESSER funds would be. There's no doubt in my mind. Like I said, I know other districts are, so this is absolutely appropriate. And we're really looking for the school committee to endorse this. So I can go to the next step here and work with Ms. Lodi and Mr. Smith and get this paperwork in and get it processed, because my understanding is not the purchase orders all have to be in by September 30th, but the funds then need to be totally expended. So if I might take a little time, I think it's December, mid-December or the end of December that it must be the project. So it's important to get this going in the
Of this
very
year? Of this,
next year,
oh,
in a year. But things take time. You have to bid the project and there's,
yeah.
so I can order supplies, I can order equipment. like on state contract, but then you have to find a contractor to install it, right? So it needs to be done safely, and then the grounding and then fencing and ching, you're up at 400 very easily. So that's what we were hoping to do and with the special projects there. And then there's professional development. We have a little bit more to do, curriculum materials, and then miscellaneous expense. Whenever you pay for salaries under a federal grant, and this is a federal grant, 9% of those salaries have to go to either MTRS or Hampden County. So I need to tally that up, and probably a good portion of that is going to go to the retirement.
Oh, we can take that from Messer.
Oh, you have to, yes.
If you're paying.
Because you used it from Messer.
Have to, yes, if I use any federal
And
grant.
I
So if we have salaries on Title I, if we have
Yeah.
salaries on IDEA grant, those are federal grants. That way I have to do this 9% set aside, and that's all part, done behind the scenes. We don't have a ton of salaries.
was gonna say, that would have to be
Well, we have paraprofessionals,
dollars.
yeah, for
We've
some.
Yeah, $500,000.
We've done paraprofessionals and we've done custodial support.
But that's not,
3 and 1, yeah.
yeah, so it's just the paras, I believe.
At Meadowbrook, does that address the other fence for the preschool as well, the 450?
I really don't know
Down or?
Or something better?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
The project that we'd like to do is where we've shifted the preschool to. So geographically, I'm challenged
East.
here. I think it's
Well, where
east.
the old one was, right?
Yes,
That's torn down.
that is no longer there.
The east side by
That's
the-
the east
by
side.
the
If you
farm.
come in the main parking lot where
Straight ahead.
the drop off is, it would be behind that where the building juts out in the cafeteria. It's tucked in there. So right now, there's nothing for the students to use on that side of the building. We do have that main playscape that we had gotten back in 2018, I believe, through
That was
community
community
preservation.
That one we funded through the community preservation funding.
And that is already like,
And it's starting to
It was-
need repair.
It was,
Yeah, I've
So
seen that.
DPW is helping us repair and mend it where needed. However, that one is probably just a little bit larger than some of our preschoolers can handle. And so we're looking to get something that preschool and kindergarten can use on the other side
and accessible.
that's accessible.
yes,
All students.
yes.
Yep.
So Miss Lodi's going to, obviously she has a vision, and other feedback from the PTOs and other teachers. So what we're going to do is get something more concrete together. And if that price does go up, then we do have areas we could adjust here. So this is really just a work in progress. It's our projection right now for the remainder through the next, 8 months.
Is that the figure you would use for the summer academy from the school choice? Is that the same kind of? No.
Roughly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
We're going to hone that a little bit. What we have to look
Is that the
at.
full cost?
That's probably higher than it cost last year, but obviously each year it may go up a little bit. And we also, in talking to the leadership team over a couple of meetings, realized that we kind of exhausted. We didn't really plan for the custodial piece. We did for the subs, but the custodial supplies and
supplies and
we hadn't really factored that in. So there were schools last year that got to this time of the year and said, hey, I'm already through my custodial budget. That usually doesn't happen. And hey, we used that in
We're
July
open
and
for the
all, I
summer,
guess,
yeah.
yeah. So we want to make sure that we're putting all the cost areas that Summer Academy touches into the plan so that when we develop it utilizing school choice money, we have all that accounted.
And the other item that gets a little tricky, that Miss Lodi expressed to us, and rightfully so, her custodians can't really do all the cleaning that they want to do because there's a summer program there with all these little tykes running around. So it gets really crazy. They have like 2 weeks when it ends before school starts. So they need additional support. They can't do it themselves. It's just, they just can't physically do it. So that was another layer that we need to look at as well. And we're also then behind the scenes trying to encourage more of the summer academies, right? We want more kids in here. If they want to be here, we want them here. And
We don't want to turn students away.
yeah, so
Yeah.
we think that that's a fair number right now.
Is
But
that happening in all 5 buildings? Summer academy?
It's not taking place in all 5 buildings. It's taking place at all 3 levels.
grade levels.
So we concentrated most of the elementary at Meadowbrook so that we could have staff all report to one area. We'd had student volunteers and get our supplies all to one school. I'm not sure Meadowbrook felt that that was the best choice, but it had the classrooms we needed and the playscape and so forth. So we have to look at that again. But then the middle school ran one, their building, and the high school ran one at
I do want to just mention that figure there of that 150,000 estimated for the summer academies. That is not the special ed summer program. That's separate. The operating budget funds that. There are certain rules behind the scenes that are operational for special ed. Can't decrease. It needs to stay where it needs to, in addition to these other funding sources that are federally, they want to make sure that the operational budget is taken care of.
No, so
summer academy and you have extended school year.
an extended school year cost apply to circuit breaker can apply to those costs.
That's correct. Because circuit breaker is revenue from special ed expenditures to be spent only on special ed costs. So anything that falls under that umbrella would be okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
Number for the playground project, if it continues to rise, is it possible to solicit support from those outside, kind of like the community preservation that funded the other? Is it possible to use that to bolster or support what the school?
We'd have to apply for that. That's a
Right.
process to apply for, and that's what we did for.
I didn't know.
Project, unless the only way that would actually be possible, and it might be a route we would have to go if we had to do that, is to do it in phases, which is never great to do though, in all honesty. It's not.
Okay.
Because you start and you get little pieces here and then you're adding, and it's best to try to do it. It's less expensive when you have a contractor in just once, like doing the work. Do you know what I mean? And the installation, and it just is better that way.
So if we were to get other funding sources to bolster that, it would create a situation where the project would have to be done in phases. That's what you're saying.
Community preservation funding.
Okay.
I don't know whether there's the sources you might.
I don't know, like grants, like Mrs. Lodi was talking about applying for different grants, since I don't know what.
So if those came in, we
can
could
still
combine
look at
those.
that. I mean, if there are grants out there that for which we
Correct.
qualify, we can put in grants towards this.
I'm hoping we don't need to do that. I'm hoping that
Time is the issue.
Yeah,
time is the issue.
And that's
So,
where
yes,
I got it.
we have to get going on.
get going on it. It's a bidding process. It's
Possible. Spring.
as soon as, but again, this district I talked to is doing a lot of playgrounds, and so we're not the only ones.
Yeah.
Now there could be shortages or, takes time, and so that's why I'm anxious, but.
So Renee's on it. She's looking into
It's already on it.
manufacturing and things of that nature.
Right, and
Okay.
trying to just get companies, which I did get a name of who's doing these other playgrounds. So I'm gonna talk with Renee tomorrow, and because when I submit this paperwork to Desi, they would like some kind of quote along with it, an estimated quote,
Right.
so that they can justify us asking
much
for
we're spending.
400,000, an estimated $400,000. Now, if those quotes start coming in saying what you're really looking for is more like 500,000, well, then we do have the money here. We would just have to shift our plans around, and we would bring that back, to talk it over with you all. Sound good?
Yes. So next step for that portion, would Renee come to us with a proposal, or do we need to
I would-
designate the funds first? What would you like? What do we need to do?
It's not an official vote. We're just looking for an endorsement.
Okay.
So we can go to the next step, which is us internally completing this document, which Gordon, as a
Send it.
superintendent, will sign. So when I talk to Renee, she's already talking to some vendors, and now I have another name or company. So I think we could have this document out within a week. With
the quote?
What we can do.
I think
is,
so.
Bring back the
Yeah.
document that was.
Yeah, to share it with you. Yeah,
Right.
like
Next meeting.
that idea. Because it's not so, and when we do that, it's not that it has to state exactly like that, but it's a good idea of what you're looking for. I mean, I want to remind everybody that there's they're not quite 600 students, but that's a lot of little bodies climbing on this, playscape. And yeah, it's important,
And it
and
gets used after school.
yes, and that's it, right? All the
All
All the
fields.
games during all that.
Yes, exactly. So thank you all.
Good with that plan? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great.
So that's where we're at with the budget.
Okay. And next time we're going to talk about budget plan. When's that going to be?
We'll try to keep it on every meeting on something.
A little update, wherever we're at.
This week, determine other timelines in terms of when we're loading up spreadsheets and town, the dates, the town council will help with that process. And what we would like to do, if the town's okay with it, is similar to past years where we utilize January and get an idea of where chapter 70 is going to be, because then it's better to have discussions where you're at least
So the town
to a
knows.
certain extent.
Well, if it's a big number, if it's a low number, it's not better if they're,
I'm assuming.
because we have to be careful not to directly correlate
Right.
our increase to chapter 70.
You're
Because
exactly
many times,
You can see
not the
that
same.
when chapter 7.
Correct.
Generally, the town's contribution has gone down.
Yes,
So,
right, but every year except that one year has been an increase in local contribution.
right.
Above and beyond the increase. in
Yes,
70.
that's correct.
That's all.
That's all.
In
Overfocus.
addition
I
to-
don't want to overfocus on this chapter 70 money because if we correlate it, then
Good point.
Right, but what
lower.
it does do is help the town to
Oh,
help.
their revenue,
Yes.
paid revenues.
It's a
Yeah,
revenue source that goes directly to
Yeah,
the town.
totally. I promised Amy we'd get out by 7, so. I kept my word. We'll get out of here. All
Oh,
right, is that
that's it.
good? Thank you, Pam.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Pam.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have one more item for the agenda, the 7th and 8th grade waiver for girls and boys ski.
We do. And so Mr. McGee has a memo, which I included in all of your packets. Unfortunately, this was not something that we had anticipated when we came for the other waivers that we had gotten previously to the winter athletic season starting. But we have right now 8 female skiers signed up and 2 male skiers.
Wow.
And so we would like to, with your approval, put in for a waiver to allow possibly 7th and 8th grade students where we do feel we have a handful that would be interested in skiing, somewhat of an individual sport, not certainly a contact sport, at least with other people. Mountain sometimes you do have contact with. Just trees, hopefully not trees, but so with your approval, we hopefully can have a few 8th graders. I don't know that we have any 7th graders interested, but we would open it up to 7th graders.
Questions?
No.
Okay, I entertain a motion. Then.
I move to approve the 7th and 8th grade waiver for the girls and boys ski team. As adding,
We can do that.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that as presented. Yeah. Motion made by Kate,
Second.
second by Tanella. Any other discussion? Emily, you're not a skier?
No.
You were trapped.
we're running inside.
We talked about it. Brian. Motion made and second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That carries 4-0.
You know, and we'll start our recruitment.
I've got 2 more minutes. Anybody want to talk about anything? No. Not on a standard motion to adjourn.
Still move.
Motion made by Itzel. Second by Amy. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That motion carries 4-0. Thank you. We are adjourned.